We are kind of talking about some other things here, and you know, the FrugalTEch show is basically about using technology for a small to mid-sized company. That's really what it is. We don't always do a lot of product reviews and that sort of thing. I'd like to maybe start doing some more product reviews, but we like to have some business tips and that sort of thing. And I came across just a really cool article here in it's called Business Solutions Magazine. Tighten up on that a little bit if you can see that. Focus in on it. Business Solutions. And let me get a little sip of coffee here. I'm a coffee addict. Man, I live on this stuff. 8 o'clock coffee. It's one of my anytime is 8 o'clock for me. I love 8 o'clock coffee. Any rate, the article was just simply called 5 Tips to Be a Better Boss. I've owned a small business practically all my working career. And I've supervised employees. I've built some decent sized companies. I've worked for some other companies where I was in charge as a manager and management. And, you know, a lot of times, especially if you, a lot of small business people, a lot of entrepreneurs really don't have always the formal training it takes to be a good boss. But these are 5 very common sense tips. It's by Dan Shell, Business Solutions Magazine. And I'm going to go, here we go. Number 1, don't manage by fear. In other words, threatening to fire employees, threatening to dock their pay, all these things is not always a motivator of people. It doesn't, if you think that's the only way to, manage people, it's not. And it's a bad idea. Number 2, take a genuine interest in your employees. You have to get to know people a little bit to understand what motivates them. All right, and listen and learn not just, how capable they are doing the job, but what kind of person they are. So take the time to learn something about your employees and be genuine in that interest and be sincere. You spend probably more time with your employees every day than you do your family. So, I always tended to think of my employees as my associates, my compatriots. As they're helping me pursue my dream, and they should be treated thusly. Number 3, be clear and concise. In other words, avoid vague instructions that, like one guy, he thought if he gave kind of vague instructions on how to do the job, this would somehow teach the employees how to think for themselves. But really what it did was it frustrated everybody because they weren't getting the results he thought they should. So when you do give instructions or job description, whatever, be very clear and concise in that message so that individual or the group of individuals know what is expected out of them. Number 4, don't ask employees to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. If you're not willing to put in the hard work and the effort yourself, why do you expect your employees to do more? If you're going to ask your employees to do something unethical because you wouldn't do it, that's wrong on so many levels. Dan gives an example of how the company had a giveaway drawing. He was told before he went, no matter what name you pulled out of the basket, announce it's this person, because that was a major customer's wife or something like that. And so he went there, he thought about it, grabbed out the paper and gave it to the actual winner, not the wife, and ultimately ended up resigning from his job. And it's kind of weird, as I had a similar situation happen to me down in Indianapolis. One time we had a drawing for like a real nice camera or some digital camera or something like that, and one of the people that I work with said, "Now look, no matter who we pull, it's actually going to be this person." And I said, "Absolutely not. I will have nothing to do with that. I want that to be. You just don't want to go there on that." And this is, I think, the best one of all. Act with urgency on performance rather than waiting on performance reviews. Now, many companies have a formal performance review plan, and that's when you sit down quarterly, semi-annually, annually, how well you're doing, what you're not doing so well at, etc. That is not the time and place to bring an employee in and totally, I use the expression T-bone, but broadside that employee with negative performance review. They should have known you were unhappy with issues from the very beginning, rather than waiting for 3 months, 6 months, or a year to say, you're not cutting the mustard here, here, and here. No. That's not right. It's not fair. It's not good business. Don't do that. If you got a problem, and conversely, if they're doing a job well, let them know right away. That's part of, taking an interest in employees. That's part of team building. That's part of good management. Deal with situations early on, head on, and avoid any unpleasant surprises. You want the work atmosphere to be as pleasant as you can possibly make it while still being productive and getting the job done. I think these are great tips to be a better boss.